Your new collection launched 3 weeks ago and you've sold $47. Meanwhile, you're watching other jewelry businesses sell out in days. They're posting their $12,000 launch screenshots, and you're wondering what the hell you are doing wrong. You may have spent months designing the perfect pieces. You've invested hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars in materials and photography, and you poured your heart into every detail, convinced that this would be the collection that finally breaks through. But here we are 3 weeks later, dreading checking your sales dashboard because those numbers aren't moving. And I get it. You start questioning everything. You start asking yourself, is my jewelry not good enough? Are my prices too high? Should I just give up and get a regular job? You are starting to resent Instagram posts from other makers showing their sold out stories while you're sitting on that $3,000 worth of inventory that nobody wants. But here's the truth that nobody wants to tell you. It's not your jewelry, it's your strategy. And so the biggest myth in the jewelry industry is that if you make beautiful pieces, they'll sell themselves, that quality and craftsmanship is enough. And that if you just post pretty pictures on Instagram, customers are going to come running. And this is completely wrong. And it's destroying businesses every single day. I've worked with over 200 jewelry businesses, and here's what I've discovered. The collections that sell out aren't necessarily the most beautiful, the highest quality, or even the most affordable. They're the ones that follow a proven system. You see, selling jewelry isn't just about the jewelry, it's about the experience, it's about the story, and it's the strategic psychological triggers that make people need to buy. Most jewelry business owners spend about 90% of their time creating and 10% selling, and then they wonder why they're not hitting those consistent $10,000 months that they are dreaming about. So let's talk about what's really happening when your collection just doesn't sell. Let me break it down what I see in terms of what's killing 90% of jewelry launches. The first is the random launch approach, where you're treating your launch like throwing spaghetti at the wall. You create pieces whenever inspiration strikes, you post them whenever they're ready, and you hope for the best. There's no strategy, no sequence, no psychological build-up. And essentially what you're doing is you're asking cold audiences to immediately spend hundreds of dollars on something they've never seen before from somebody that they barely know. The second thing is the post and pray mentality. So you may think that because you've posted on Instagram and maybe sent a couple of emails, you've marketed your collection. But your audience needs to see your offer, honestly, 7 to 70 times before they buy. Most jewelry makers give up around the 2 to 3 touch points and wonder why nothing is working. So you're abandoning ship right before a breakthrough. The third thing is feature-focused mistakes, where you are talking all about what your jewelry is instead of what it does for your customer. So you're describing the materials, the techniques, the hours you spent making each piece. But quite honestly, your customer doesn't care as much about the process. They care about how confident they're going to feel when they're wearing your earrings to their special work presentation, or how special that necklace is going to make them feel at their daughter's wedding. And the reason that you may be failing, and I'm going to be real with you here, when it comes to your launches and why they might be failing, because understanding this will change everything. You are selling jewelry to yourself and not to your customer. You probably love the intricate details, the perfect finish, the technical craftsmanship. Your customer loves how the necklace actually makes them feel like the main character when she walks into a room. The next thing is that you're launching when you are ready, not when your market is ready. So you're finishing up a collection at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday and posting it immediately because you're excited. But your audience needs time to build that desire, trust, urgency, hype. You're kind of trying to sprint when you should be seducing your audience and getting them to know your pieces. The next thing is that you're giving up way too early. So when you don't see immediate sales, you panic and you either slash prices or you stop promoting entirely. But here's what successful jewelry makers know. Most sales, quite honestly, happen in the final 48 hours of a launch campaign. And so you are quitting right before the finish line. And you're also afraid to create real urgency. So you're scared to say, only made 20 because what if they don't sell? You're scared to create deadlines because what if people get mad? But the reality is bland doesn't sell, safe doesn't create urgency, and playing it small keeps you small. And most importantly, you're trying to be everything to everyone. You make earrings for minimalists and statement necklaces for maximalists and vintage inspired rings for bohemian brides. But when you're known for everything, essentially you're known for nothing. And here's what I know after working with hundreds of jewelry businesses. If you wait to feel ready, you could be waiting forever. So every day that you wait, another jewelry maker is using these exact strategies to capture your ideal customers. Courage comes before confidence. I tell my clients this all the time. And the jewelry designers who win, they feel the fear and they take action anyway. But I have got good news for you because this is completely fixable. But first, I want to address the biggest objection that I hear. And that is that, Robin, this sounds like a lot of work on top of actually making the jewelry. And that's a good point. But here is the truth. It is actually way less work than randomly posting and hoping something sticks. These strategies will give you a clear roadmap so you can stop wasting time on tactics that don't work. And here are the 4 strategies that will transform your next launch. So the first strategy is the pre-launch psychological campaign. And this honestly is where most jewelry makers get it completely wrong. They create their collection in secret and then they're suddenly announcing it's available at 2 p.m. on a random Tuesday, which is kind of like proposing on the first date. The most successful jewelry launches start selling something before they launch. And here's the exact timeline. So 3 to 4 weeks before the launch, we're going to be in that tease phase where you start sharing behind the scenes content of your creation process. It's not boring, here's my workbench photos, but story-driven content that builds emotional investment. What you want to do is you want to be sharing the inspiration. Like, I designed this necklace thinking about my grandmother's vintage jewelry box. You want to share the struggle. You know, I redid this clasp 4 times until it felt perfect in your hand. Make your audience feel like they are a part of the journey. 2 weeks before the launch is the reveal, so you start showing glimpses of the actual pieces without revealing everything. Close-up shots of texture, a hand wearing a piece, but you can't see the whole design. Stories behind the individual pieces, like this ring is for the woman who's ready to bet on herself. You want to build curiosity and desire without satisfying it completely. And then the week before the launch is the countdown week. So this is where you start creating urgency. You are going to share posts like collection launches next Tuesday at 12 p.m. EST, only 15 pieces in total in this collection. You're going to start collecting VIP early access emails. You're going to ask people want first access 2 hours before everyone else or 24 hours before everyone else. And the critical mistake to avoid here is that you don't just want to post pretty pictures. Every single post needs to build the story and anticipation. Your audience should be more excited about your launch than you are. Now, the second strategy is the launch day conversion sequence, because launch day isn't just a, hey, my collection's live, go shop. It is a carefully orchestrated sequence designed to convert maximum people in minimum time. I've created what I call the 12-day launch framework, and here's how the most critical days work. So day 6 is our VIP launch day, where your email subscribers get first access. You can have a subject line along the lines of, you're getting this 2 hours before Instagram, VIP access inside, you're going to share customer favorites during the VIP shopping time, and all the positive DMs as social proof. Day 7's launch day, so you're going public on all social platforms, you're sharing DMs and emails from customers who've already purchased. If you don't have any, you're sharing your own stories. and talk about how excited they are. Share those screenshots. Talk about which pieces have sold out, which pieces are still available. Share the inspiration behind the pieces that are left. The key here is treating your launch like a live event that builds momentum over 12 strategic days, and it's not a passive product release. Now, the third strategy is the post-launch momentum hack. And here is where most jewelry makers make their biggest mistake. They send their launch email, post their announcement, and then it's crickets. They sit back, they wait for sales to happen, they get anxious, but the real sales are going to happen in the follow-up, because most of your community is most likely not super fans, and super fans are buying immediately, but the rest of your customers need a little time. They need more information. They need more hype. And most people don't get results because they don't stay the course long enough with their strategies. So here's the exact post-launch sequence. So on day 2 to 3, we have the story deep dive, where you're going to be sharing detailed stories about specific pieces, the inspiration behind the Luna earrings for the woman who's tired of playing small. Show them styled differently in different ways with other pieces. Show them how these pieces can effortlessly fit into their everyday routine or a special occasion. Day 4 and 5 is social proof, where you are sharing customer photos, unboxing videos, testimonials. You know, Emma just sent me this photo wearing her new necklace to her job interview and she got the job. Show your pieces in real life on real people, creating real transformation. And then day 6 and 7 is the scarcity reality check. So you want to update your audience on what's actually selling out, and you don't want fake scarcity here. So for example, only 2 gold versions of the Luna earrings are left, silver still available. Or the charm bracelet is almost gone, 4 left. Then week 2 is going to be our last chance campaign. This is important. You want to create a definitive end date. Like the collection closes on Friday at midnight. Once these sell out, they won't be restocked until spring. And the critical mistake to avoid here is that you don't want to repeat the same message. Each touch point should provide new value, styling tips, inspiration, stories from customers, behind the scenes content, while moving towards the sale. And then the 4th strategy is the counterintuitive collection positioning strategy. And this strategy sounds crazy, but it works like magic. You want to stop trying to be everything to everyone and become known for one thing, just one thing. Most jewelry makers think more variety means more sales potential, so they make earrings, necklaces, bracelets, rings, hoping something will stick. They're working in different materials, gold, silver, all that good stuff. But that variety is going to cause confusion, which is going to kill conversions. So when you are known for everything, you're known for nothing. And here's how you're going to implement this. You are going to create your signature collection. And instead of making 20 different styles, you're going to perfect 5 to 7 pieces that become your signature collection. So think of Tiffany and their blue boxes, or Cartier and their love bracelets. What do you want to be known for? Minimalist gold pieces, statement earrings, jewelry for mamas on the go, pieces to help spark conversation, vintage inspired rings. You want to niche down. Now, niching down your brand and your customer is really important, and I want you to stop saying every woman will love this. You need to get specific. So for the minimalist who loves clean lines and quality over quantity, or for the maximalist who isn't afraid to make a statement and be remembered, for the working mama who wants to feel put together in 30 seconds. You want to also build your core collection strategy. So you want to focus on creating collections that work together, that tell a cohesive story, and that your customer can mix and match. So when somebody buys one piece, they should immediately want the matching set. And I don't want you to think that niching down limits your market, because what it really does is it expands it. When you become the go-to person for minimalist gold jewelry, minimalists will seek you out specifically and pay premium prices. So this isn't about limiting your creativity, it is about channeling it strategically, because when you become known for one thing and you do it exceptionally well, customers don't compare and price shop. They buy from you because you're the obvious choice for what they want. Listen, I get it. You probably became a jewelry designer and maker because you love creating, not because you wanted to become a marketing expert. And you can put your hands up if you've ever felt overwhelmed by all the marketing advice out there, because I see a lot of you, but here's what I need you to understand. Because the reality is, every day that you're waiting, another jewelry maker is implementing these exact strategies and capturing your ideal customers. And your jewelry deserves to be worn and not stored in boxes in your lounge. I want every piece you create make somebody feel beautiful, add value to their life, to those special moments. But if you don't learn how to sell it effectively, those pieces will sit in inventory while your customer, the woman who actually needs that exact piece for her daughter's graduation or whatever that event may be, never finds you. I've watched jewelry makers transform their businesses using these exact strategies. One of my clients, Julie, was ready to quit after making only $17,000 in her entire second year of her business. She went from about 1,400 USD a month to 16,000 in a single month in a couple of weeks. And that is nearly the same amount she made in the previous year. Another client hit her biggest quarter in the history of her business, surpassing her goals by 25% in just 60 days while actually working less. And these aren't lucky breaks or one-time flukes. This is what happens when you combine beautiful jewelry with smart strategy. And here's what I know after working with hundreds of jewelry businesses. If you wait to feel ready, you could be waiting forever. The jewelry makers who win, they feel the fear and they take action anyway. They don't wait for the perfect conditions or the perfect collection. And here's what separates the jewelry makers who succeed from those who struggle. The successful ones, they don't try figure it all out alone. They get support, they get strategy, they get accountability. Because here's the thing, business is less about being innovative and more about being consistent and strategic and doing the work that matters. The momentum comes from stacking wins by doing the right, repeatable tasks over time, not from random acts of marketing. So here's your homework. You're not getting out of here without some homework. And I want you to do this before you go to bed tonight. So step 1, write down your next collection launch date, not someday or when I'm ready. Pick a specific date, 6 to 8 weeks from now, and put it in your calendar. Step 2 is backwards plan your pre-launch campaign using the timeline I just gave you. Mark your calendar for when you'll start teasing and when you'll start revealing, when you'll open VIP access. Step 3 is define your signature style in one sentence. What do you want to be really well known for? What is that offer statement? And the thing is, information without implementation is just expensive entertainment. And I don't want you to wait for perfect conditions to work on this. Don't wait until you have more followers or more confidence. Just start implementing these strategies with your next launch. Because here's what I know after working with hundreds of jewelry businesses. The ones who try and DIY everything take 3 times longer to see results and make way more expensive mistakes along the way. If you would like the exact templates and email sequences, social media content, step-by-step roadmap that my students use to sell out their collections, I've put together a complete launch lab system. It includes the pre-launch content calendar, launch day timeline, and post-launch sequences, and the collection positioning frameworks. And more importantly, you get the support and the accountability to actually implement these strategies consistently because, as I said, information without implementation is just expensive entertainment. And the question isn't whether these strategies work. I've seen them transform hundreds of jewelry businesses. The question is whether you're ready to stop being the best kept secret in jewelry and stop being the brand that everybody's talking about. You know your jewelry is beautiful. Now let's make sure the world gets to see it, wear it, and love it as much as you do. Your sold out collection is waiting for you, and the only question is, are you ready to claim it? Now, these 4 strategies that we talked about today will absolutely transform your launches, but there is one thing that can sabotage everything before you even start. I see jewelry makers nail these launch strategies perfectly, but they're still struggling because they made one or more of the 10 deadly mistakes that kill jewelry businesses before they even get started. I learned this the hard way when I lost around $33,000 in my first 2 years of business. Even with a good launch strategy, these mistakes were bleeding money faster than I could make it. And in my next video, I'm exposing the 10 biggest jewelry business mistakes that cost me $33,000 and how to avoid every single one of them. This isn't just about a launch strategy. This is about building a profitable jewelry business from day one. If you want to avoid the expensive mistakes that kill most jewelry businesses, watch this next video and I will see you there.